Well, they may be our dads, but they are still kids at heart, and nothing brings out the nostalgia more than a look back at our childhood toys. Here with a throwback to Dad's favorite toys is Rob and Susanna Versandi from Toys Around the Clock. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to be back.
What fun you are.
Yes.
Some things to play with.
It can be tough to think of our dads sometimes as kids, when they were kids, but when you look at, you brought toys that spread, generations. Is there one particular theme? Did dads particularly like one kind of toy?
Well, it seems like children responded, whatever age they would be, to some of the pop culture of the time. And we talked about the fact that cartoons were very instrumental in creating toys for the kids. And there's a good array here of some of that material that we brought. And as you say, it's multi-generation.
Oh, great. Well, let's start with the first one. Is that Felix the cat down there?
Well, it's called Crazy Cat, but the toy itself started out as Felix. And then, for whatever reasons, the licensing was lost, so they changed it to Crazy Cat, altered the cat figure a little bit, but essentially it's the same toy. And both the cat and, of course, the toy itself moves, and he never catches the mice, which is kind of good, I guess.
Yes, that makes us feel good.
That's right.
Yes,
We picture ourselves as the mice.
There you go.
He keeps trying. A good old-fashioned pull toy.
Yeah.
All right, so then we move down. You have, I think, is it Captain Video? This is where it gets a little more sci-fi?
Yeah, again, in the early 50s of TV, they brought on a show called Captain Video, and of course video television, and it was a bare bones science fiction show. I think they had one set, and most of the action took place offset, and they responded to it accordingly in front of the cameras. But it was quite popular for its time, and a bunch of toys came out. That's one of the few sets still around.
Oh, wow. Well, that kind of leads us into a name that we all know, which is Buck Rogers. Is this is where it kind of stepped up a little bit?
Absolutely right. The rocket ship that you see in front there is from the 30s. It's Buck Rogers Mark's rocket ship. It's a wind-up. It used to shoot sparks out of the back end. And if you ever saw the movie The Hunter with Steve McQueen, that's one of his favorite toys. He was a big toy collector. And he's working on that rocket ship in the movie. You'll see him with his screwdriver fooling around with it. And it's quite a tough piece to find.
Wow. And the big box that's in front of Kathy, are you making your own
Correct.
Buck Rogers toys?
They brought out at a time when I guess it was okay for kids to get involved with things that had heat.
I know we had a toy that just shot sparks out of it, and now they're heating up their own metal.
You actually melted lead.
Oh, wow.
You poured it into little molds, and you got these little guys that you see in front there. And,
the little silver guy.
Oh, wow.
And there must have been about 30 or 40 figures, depending on how many sets of molds you bought. And once they were cast and looked like that, you could then paint them, which a lot of kids did.
Oh, Kathy, your 7-year-old would love that.
Well, I'm going to stay away from the lead.
Right. It seems like we have learned a few things as time has gone on. Well, the Buck Rogers sci-fi craze kind of carried over, and then it looks like we saw a lot more robots coming on the scene. Is that true?
Yeah. We can move on to the robots here. The little ray gun that's there from the 50s was a very special ray gun because with batteries it both lit up, made a sound, and if you were very facile you could do Morse code with it.
Oh, wow.
So that was quite a very interesting toy for the kids. Getting into the robots now, this first piece here, this Magic Robot game, actually was kind of instructional because there are questions that the sheet has, and you try to answer them. If you can't, you put the robot on it, and the robot will point to the answer.
Oh, I wish we had one today. I have a lot of questions I'd like answered.
Exactly
Like a magic
right.
8-ball. Do you feel like toys had a little bit more, they required more imagination
Yes.
when we're looking at this generation?
Absolutely right. I think things like this, casting sets, there were casting sets that were for plaster. You could make figures out of plaster by pouring them into molds. It all required a child to sort of get involved with craft, not just move something around that's made of plastic.
Sure. Let's look at the robots.
Sure.
It's interesting to see how people's perception of what robots would look like changed, and actually was kind of similar, too.
Yeah, well, it's not that far off from what we have today.
That's correct. This one, which was I think one of the first robots, is Robbie the Robot from Ideal. Unfortunately, he doesn't work much anymore. But was the first one to be offered. And with the little control stick, you'd maybe move forward. His arms would go up and down. His light would light up. His head would turn. It was a very interesting toy. But they don't wear well, as you can probably guess. So somebody played this one all the way out. This one in front here is a repro of an early robot, and we picked him up not too long ago, and he still works. You put the key and wind him up, and he kind of walks, and his arms move.
He looks like a Lego figure.
Doesn't he?
There's so
Yes.
many similarities to what was a later toy.
Right.
That's
It's
crazy.
arms, yes.
All right, so drawing. Kids loved to draw, even back then. So tell us about this series.
Even back then. Art was not discovered in the last 20 years.
Well, John Nagy was the original Bob Ross. He had about 15 minutes, I think, on one of the stations, probably Channel 5 up in New York. And he would teach you how to draw. And these kits that are offered now contained everything you needed. Conte crayons, paper, some basic rules as to how to approach the drawings. And it was fascinating. The child could just sit on the floor in front of the TV and follow with John Nagy.
Wow.
And you could create these very easy landscapes, but they looked great once you finished them,
Well, drawing kind of leads us into comics. So I know that we have some Dick Tracy items here, and then that also kind of Dick Tracy leads us into Batman, which it's amazing to me that Batman has continued to come back again and again in different forms. Linda and I can kind of rock and sock him a little bit here. Our aim's not terribly
You
good.
guys aren't great at this.
And what era would you say this Batman is? I'm trying to guess by the illustration.
That's probably from the early 90s, I believe.
Okay, so this
The
is
early
one
90s.
of the more
so it's
current
not
Batman.
that old.
Yeah.
Yes.
This reflects the animated series that was done not too long ago.
Yeah, because my son got one of these, not Batman, but the other one when, I guess in the 60s.
Yes,
Oh.
exactly right.
And then a toy that certainly has come back, the Star Wars franchise. I know that we had an attic full of toys, Star Wars toys. Talk us through a little bit about the longevity of Star Wars toys.
Well, it's interesting because in 1977, Kenner got the contract to go ahead and produce Star Wars toys. So if you were lucky enough and smart enough to keep those toys on the blister packs in a box somewhere, you'd be worth a lot of money today. These pieces that are displayed below the counter here, these came out in the late 90s, I believe. Most coveted because of their size. They are huge.
Yeah, they're much bigger than the first release. The first release was only about 4 inches tall. Right?
Exactly right. And much more detailed, and trying to find these is very, very difficult.
Wow.
Especially boxed the way they are. And pretty much as they came off the toy shelf.
That's why you are the collector with the enviable collection.
Yes.
It's fun to see kind of what everything has changed, but a lot of things have stayed the same with dear old Dad. Well, for more info about Toys Around the Clock and all of their great collection of toys, you can visit their website, toysaroundtheclock.com. Coming up next, our beauty expert talks to us about summer skincare.